ما تروح تقول اللهم إني أسألك بحق الحسين، لا. ولا تقول للحسين يا أبا عبد الله ادعو الله لي بآن، لا، تقول له يا حسين اشفني، يا حسين ارزقني، يا حسين أفض علي المواهب. خطاب مباشر إلى الحسين.
Why do you call us mushriks? Why do you call us mushriks?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is another response to Ammar Nakshawani, this time speaking about intercession, Tawassul, Istighatha and Shafa'a. And in this video, inshallah ta'ala, we'll demonstrate clearly to the Shia audience how misinformed Ammar is in regards to the theology of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Because what is intercession? When you seek in reality the help of another, or you want to go through a particular path, the best path that will get you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes, if we zoom into the Quran, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use the word wasila. Fear God and seek an approach unto Him. Ibtaghu ilayhi al-wasila. Strive to find that which is the best intermediary to reaching and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So Ammar chooses to speak about Tawassul, which the main part of it is a fiqhi matter amongst Ahl Sunnah. And he would claim that this is a theological difference amongst the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, which shows how misinformed Ammar is basically and how misleading the content that he creates can be for his Shi'i audience. Linguistically, Tawassul is to seek nearness to someone or something, and Tawassul has three parts. One of them, al-mutawassil, me who is doing Tawassul, for example, the believer who makes dua, and then al-wasila itself, the means of near, and finally the object or destination or the one who I'm trying to be near to. So for example, when I ask Allah Azza wa Jal by His names, I am al-mutawassil, the names of Allah are al-wasila, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is the one that I'm trying to be near to, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
You'll see that this debate is one that was raging in the Sunni world, where it begins by talking about A, can I talk to Allah through mentioning a wasila, an intercessor? A. B, can I mention Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, although he has passed away? C, can I hope for the intercession, shafa'a of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam on the day of judgment? Sometimes we say, Allahumma rzuqna shafa'at al-Husayn yawm al-wurud, on the day of judgment.
So here clearly at the start of the video we can demonstrate to the Shia audience how again misinformed Ammar is. He claims that there is an enraging debate or discussion or difference of opinions amongst Ahl Sunnah in regards to someone seeking shafa'ah. No one disagrees with that. No one denies that there is shafa'ah at the day of judgment by the prophets, by the righteous, by the scholars.
In the Sunni world, there was a major debate. Can you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi?
So again here he says and he claims that there was a major debate amongst Ahl Sunnah. This major debate, Ahl Sunnah agree that it is a fiqhi matter. It is not a theological matter. Even certain scholars such as Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, he considers this to be a fiqhi issue and a khilaf that is accepted.
A couple of key points emerge. The first one is that Sheikh Hamza Yusuf makes it clear to us that we should never generalize on all Sunnis when it comes to understanding of certain issues. Sometimes people will say that we Shia believe in Tawassul, but other Muslims do not believe in Tawassul. No, on the contrary. Here is a Sheikh who knows the Maliki fiqh inside out, and he has come forward.
So here he says we shouldn't generalize. However, you do generalize when it comes to the concept of imama, where many of your scholars, like we have demonstrated in previous videos, believe that anyone who does not believe in imama, not the one who rejects it after it's clear to him, no, anyone who does not believe in imama, he's a kafir. And there are clear statements of the scholars of Shia in takfiring the scholars of the Asha'ira and the Sufis and the Maturidiyya, let alone the rest of Ahl Sunnah.
The second point which I'd like to discuss that emerges from what he's just said is that he mentions how the only problematic person who always emerges in these things is Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah and the followers of Ibn Taymiyyah.
Again, Ammar, I would ask you to do a better research next time. In regards to doing tawassul through the Prophet ﷺ, Ibn Taymiyyah is not the only one who did not allow it, even though he acknowledges that it's a fiqhi issue. One of the earliest scholars who did not allow tawassul through the Prophet ﷺ is no one but Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Abu Hanifa.
The only problematic person who always emerges in these things is Ibn Taymiyyah. The only problematic person who always emerges in these things is Ibn Taymiyyah.
Before we continue, why Abu Hanifa or why Ibn Taymiyyah and others did not allow tawassul through the Prophet ﷺ to say, oh Allah, I ask you by the position of the Prophet ﷺ. This very topic, my brothers and sisters, shows the objectivity of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. When Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah looked into the issue of tawassul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking us to take wasila, they said that one of the wasa'il that is mentioned in the Quran is to ask Allah by His names. فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا, ask Him by His names. Second, to ask Allah Azza wa Jal by a good action. The three men in the cave him asked Allah by the righteous deed and the sincerity. And the third, that also Ammar Nakshawani did not know that it's a matter of ijma' amongst Ahl Sunnah, is to seek the dua of a righteous person. The same way that the children of Yaqub went to the father in Surah Yusuf and they told him to ask Allah for forgiveness.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All of you know this ayah. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. Another form of wasila is what? Hajj. Another form of wasila is what? My deeds that I was so sincere with that I say, Ya Allah, in the name of that act which I done purely for you. Someone says, where? Join me over here, my dear brothers and sisters, the tale of the cave. So now what do we have? Number one, I ask Allah through the wasila of salah, Sawm, the wasila of His names, the wasila of my good deeds as well.
So again, Ammar is mentioning matters that are matters of ijma', and I don't know why he takes so long speaking of matters of consensus. There's no point of reading a riwayah for 5-7 minutes or speaking about a verse for 10 minutes if it's a matter of ijma' amongst the scholars of Islam.
Then I ask Allah through His greatest prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. It is narrated on the authority of Uthman bin Hunayf, the one that Sheikh Hamza Yusuf just quoted, that he said, a blind man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and said, invoke Allah for me so that He would cure me and restore my sight to me. If there's a ma'soom who's next to me, I'll ask that ma'soom direct, true? He said, if you so like, I would defer, and this is much better for you. And if you so like, I would invoke him for you. He said, no, invoke him for me.
So in this hadith, a blind man comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and his request was that the Prophet makes dua for him. The Prophet ﷺ gives him two options. Either that you show patience, or that I make dua for you. So the Prophet gave him two options. So the man chose the Prophet to make dua for him. The man goes on making wudu, praying 2 rak'ah, and then making a dua. The Prophet promised him to make dua for him. And the man went on making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would accept the intercession, meaning accept the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
And if you so like, I would invoke him for you. He said, no, invoke him for me. 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 Invoke him for me.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was next to the man in the masjid when the man said, "O Muhammad, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam."
O Muhammad, I turn with the help of you to my Lord in this need of mine to be fulfilled. And if you so like, I would invoke him for you. So like, I would invoke him for you.
However, regardless whether you claim that this is an evidence for tawassul through the Prophet ﷺ or not, this is a fiqhi matter. As long as the dua is for Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, then it's a fiqhi issue. Say, oh Allah, I ask you by the Prophet or by the position of Prophet, is a khilaf of fiqh that is tolerated amongst the scholars of Ahl Sunnah. It has nothing to do with creed and theology.
I now, as a Shi'i, I come and I say, Ya Allah, I ask you in the name of Imam Ali, no problem. But me going to ask the Imams directly, no, this is a problematic issue. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I mention the names of the Imams. Now I know that there are many in the Shia community, even if they say Ya Ali or Ya Hussein, what they mean is, Ya Allah, I want your help, but I'm mentioning the Ahlul Bayt. But still, A person has to be careful.
Then place your right cheek on the earth and say 100 times again, Ya Mawlati Fatima Aghithini. Repeat the same with the left cheek. Then go back into sajda and this time recite this 110 times. Then ask Allah for your haja and Allah will fulfill it. This salah has been tried and tested by many scholars and demonstrates the validity of the practice of istighatha as well as tawassul.
Why do you call us mushriks?
Ya Allah, bila ya Ali shirk.
Why do you call us mushriks? And that's why I say that tomorrow night is a night to remember the Imam of our time. Someone says, and how would we do it? Ask Imam al-Mahdi for your hajat. Ask Imam al-Mahdi to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to answer your hajat. Ask Imam al-Mahdi to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Let's invoke and call upon Al-Mahdi, who is the living Imam of our time. The all-hearing Mahdi, the all-encompassing Mahdi will respond to their dua and will ask Allah Azza wa Jal for the needs. So Ammar, why did you say we should ask Imam al-Mahdi? What is your evidence from the books of Ahl Sunnah that you want to bring to prove that we should ask al-Mahdi, that all the Shia, millions of Shia, should invoke al-Mahdi and ask him to make dua for them?
Someone says, why do you need to ask Imam al-Mahdi? Just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala direct. Umar ibn al-Khattab would ask Abbas, uncle of Rasulullah, to do a dua on which issue? On an issue when, for example, for rain. Imagine there's no rain coming to town. Umar could easily say, Ya Allah, rain. Ya Allah, give us rain. Let's see, Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second Khalifa, whether he asks someone to do dua or Umar asks Allah direct. Come with me over here and you will see Hadith 1010 narrated Anas. Whenever drought threatened them, Umar ibn al-Khattab used to ask Al-Abbas bin Abd al-Muttalib to invoke Allah for rain. Umar ibn al-Khattab would ask Abbas because he's the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you have a problem with me when I mention the great grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask him to pray to Allah to answer my hajat. Umar ibn al-Khattab could easily raise his hands in dua, Ya Allah, give us rain. Why does Umar? He says, because of what? Because he is the uncle of Rasulullah.
The Arabs say, شَرُّ الْبَلِيَّةِ مَا يُضْحِكُ. To prove that millions of people should call upon al-Mahdi. Ammar mentions an incident in which Umar radiallahu anhu goes to Al-Abbas radiallahu anhu and tells him, please make dua for us. It is a matter of consensus that one of the ways of tawassul is to go to a person, to go to a righteous person, or a person that has the barakah of the closeness to the Prophet ﷺ, and ask him to make dua for us. This is a matter of ijma' that Ammar Nakshawani continuously fails to understand and comprehend.
Therefore, when we are talking to Al-Muhammad, why do you call us mushriks?
In which verse and which hadith Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled and gave authority to Al-Mahdi to hear millions of people's dua with the different languages and different locations, being the all-hearing and the all-understanding and the all-knowing of our supplications, and that He would supplicate Allah Azza wa Jal for us. This is definitely a practice that is shirky, that is a practice of paganism. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us.
And that's why, therefore, for us, when we look at Tawassul, I say, Ya Allah bihaqqi Muhammad. If I look at istighatha, I have the Imam of my time, and I say, oh Imam, I ask you directly to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I invoke you to pray for me from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He answers my hajat. Then shafa'ah, I would say, is an area many Muslims generally agree on. On the day of judgment, we all look for the intercession of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi.
This is how he ends his episode, speaking about tawassul, which is a fiqhi matter, speaking about seeking shafa'ah and saying, oh Allah, grant us the shafa'ah of the righteous, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is something that is allowed according to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And when he spoke about istighatha, he did not want to trigger and enrage the Shi'i audience. Therefore, he avoided speaking about istighatha not being allowed from the Imams that are dead. And he said that it is only allowed from Al-Mahdi because he's alive.
Now I know that there are many in the Shia community, even if they say Ya Ali or Ya Hussein, what they mean is, Ya Allah, I want your help, but I'm mentioning the Ahlul Bayt. But still, A person has to be careful.
We have other narrations, for example, from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Listen to this, in Al-Kafi. These are all narrations, found, strong. He says, either when you are in a state of distress, go in sujood and say what? يا جبرائيل يا محمد اكفياني واحفظاني بإذن الله فإنكما حافظان. Did Imam al-Sadiq say go into sujood and only say Ya Allah? In Al-Kafi he says go into sujood and say Ya Jibra'il Ya Muhammad, Ya Jibra'il Ya Muhammad. This is evidence, this is there. Yes, and I found tens of riwayat from Ahl al-Bayt of them practicing and telling people to perform istighatha.
Getting this from عدة من أصحابنا عن سهل بن زياد. سهل بن زياد is a narrator who has been exposed in the most authoritative classical books of 12er Shia ilm al-rijal. The head of the classical Shia 12er Qummis, يشهد عليه بالغلو. He testified against Sahl ibn Ziyad that he was a ghali. He was a person influenced by ghulu wal kadhib, and he was known to be a liar.
In Al-Kafi he says go into sujood and say Ya Jibra'il Ya Muhammad, Ya Jibra'il Ya Muhammad.
ما تروح تقول اللهم اني اسالك بحق الحسين، لا. ولا تقول للحسين يا ابا عبد الله ادعو الله هل لي بآن، لا. تقول له يا حسين اشفني، يا حسين ارزقني، يا حسين افض علي المواهب.
Therefore, when we are talking to Al Muhammad, why do you call us mushriks?
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah guide him and the rest of our Shia brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.